Good morning to you, Minister.
Good to be with you again.
Good to have you with us. This sort of been brewing, this issue on welfare cuts. Is it the sort of biggest internal challenge, do you think, that the Prime Minister has faced from his own party since being in government?
Well, the issue has been brewing for a long time because under the Conservatives, we have got to a situation where there's 1 million young people. That's 1 in 8 young people who are not in education, training or work. We have almost 3 million people who are out of work, out of the economy, economically inactive. But both of those figures are growing, they're not shrinking, and that's what we've inherited. So that means the system isn't working. In some cases, there are perverse incentives in the system. In other cases, we find that people who want to work simply aren't being supported into work. Now, we want to make sure the safety net is always there for people who need it the most, but we need to make sure that it's fit for the age that we're living in and that those people who can work should work. But those people who are striving to get into the labour market who need to get the support they absolutely need. That means reforming the system. That is what Liz Kendall is doing, and we will put the proposals to Parliament, in the near future when she's ready to do so.
It's a bit rich, the sort of whole way this is being framed, kind of taking the moral high ground and making cuts and blaming the last government, who you railed against any time they suggested reforms of this ilk. So I guess my question to you is, can you understand the sour taste it is leaving in the mouths of a lot of your own backbenchers?
We're the Labour Party. We care about the dignity of work. We understand that people want to work if they are able to work. But don't tell me there are 3 million people out there that simply do not want to work. The system isn't working for them. So, yes, we want to make sure that people are supported into work. It is appalling that we've inherited a system that is ballooning. We don't believe that Britain is a country where increasing numbers of people simply just want to be outside of the labour market. That's not expressing their unique talent as individual people. So we want to have a system that will deliver for them. We will deliver that system. And yes, it does mean reducing costs because costs are spiralling and they're going in the wrong direction. So it's not working for people and it is not working for our economy and it's not working for our public finances. So there's nothing wrong with trying to reduce the welfare bill, but I have to reassure people that we will always be there for people who need that support the most. So those are the key principles we will bring into play at this point. But Liz Kendall will present these findings and her reforms to Parliament at the right time.
Yeah, I guess that phrase, there's nothing wrong with wanting to reduce the welfare bill, is not the sentiment one got from the party when in opposition. But on the broader point of costs, you're saying today that AI and tech can save nearly £50 billion worth of costs from internal government expense.
That's right. There's a report that my department did and I led, which has found that there are £45 billion worth of productivity and efficiency savings within government if we move to digital. More than half, or about half, of all transactions carried out by government are analogue. So that is, for example, DVLA opening 45,000 envelopes every single day. They've got that number down and credit to them, but still 45,000. HMRC is picking up the phone 100,000 times every day. This is not the way we should be doing government. This is not the way we should be running a country in the 2020s. So there's somebody who works in my department who fantastically got pregnant, is expecting a baby. She had a maternity card sent through the post. She had to put her own national insurance number in and fill it out and carry it physically with her for every checkup that she had. She was told that if she went into labour and she didn't have that card with her, then she wouldn't be able to she wouldn't have the medical records with her. By the end of her pregnancy, she had this huge folder. This is not the way we should be doing things in this day and age. Again, this is what we've inherited. By transitioning to digital, it will make life better for people. It will empower people up and down the country because public services will wrap around their needs, not them constantly fitting into the way public services want to act. And it will reduce the cost of doing government by up to £45 billion.
It sounds like music to most people's ears, perhaps apart from my mum, who would suffer if she can't still send a letter or pick up a phone. On the point, though, there of those cost savings, as you said, the extraordinary number of phone calls and letters opened, what level of percentage headcount will it lead to in terms of a reduction of government employees?
We're not going to set an artificial headcount because this is.
But it will go down.
It is almost certain that the headcount will go down, but it's not going to be sort of just an arbitrary overall figure. We will be using productivity tools to drive efficiency. This is not about the political side of government against the civil service side of government, because I have found since coming into office there are people right through the civil service who are hungry for change. They are excited by the possibility of having a more efficient and effective, work life, but also being part of transforming the relationship that people have with their public services and their government. So, for example, when we came in 7 months ago, I started the programme of having the gov.uk app. It will be delivered for people up and down this country in June this year, followed by the digital wallet, followed by the digital driving licence by the end of this year. None of that work had started before we came to office. It will be delivered within 11 months. That's because we have officials who are well-led, they are given clear objectives, and they are hungry to deliver these incredible services for the public.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about this. I mean, it feels like the sentiment behind it, you agree with what Elon Musk is trying to do with Doge, but you're perhaps trying to do it in a slightly more considerate way.
I think there are ways of being really highly disruptive in the way that we deliver change and deliver a new set of services, services in a new way for people, but to take the workforce with us, to tap into the real sentiment there is, not all parts of the civil service, but in key parts of the civil service, empower those people who are hungry for change and take the workforce with us. I don't think disruption always has to be negative. I think it can be a highly positive and rewarding experience. Now, yes, that will mean to a leaner, smarter, smaller state over time, but it will also mean transforming relationships that people have with their government and their public services. These are things that excite people who are delivering those services, as well as those of us who are trying to deliver the change from the political side.
I wanted to talk about the Online Safety Act. There's been a lot of questions, more on the implementation of it, perhaps, than anything else, as to whether it has been interpreted correctly by Ofcom. There's now even questions of whether it should be pushed back, amended it to soften it, in light of potentially doing a trade deal with the United States. And obviously, there's a lot of big US tech firms that are affected. Will it be in any way watered down in order to get a trade deal over the line?
The vast majority of the Online Safety Act relates to the safety of children, the protection of children. This is not up for negotiation. The legislation is on statute, is going to remain on statute, but we have to be clear that there is more that needs to be done. Just on Monday next week, there'll be new powers that will come online where illegal activity, illegal content needs to be taken down. By July this year, content needs to be age appropriate for those consuming it. Now, this is not highly contentious pieces of legislation. Mark Zuckerberg, in his statement earlier this year, when he spoke about freedom of speech within the United States, not within Britain, but within the United States, he also said in the same statement that Facebook needs to do better and Meta needs to do better at taking illegal content down and keeping children safe online. So there is broad agreement when it comes to the safe experience in an online world. We have had to have a legislation and a regulatory framework to make sure that we can embed that. And I'm watching very closely about how we keep those laws up to date into the future.
On copyright and AI, though, a slightly different approach, that it's not protecting children, so more conciliatory towards big tech?
No, I think when it comes to AI and sort of intellectual property and copyright, particularly from the creative industries, we just simply have to find a way of keeping people's the copyrighted intellectual property safe in the digital age. People need to earn a living in the digital age. They need to have control of their creations. And they need to also know how their creations are being used. These are the things that I'm trying to figure out how we do in a digital age, because when these tech companies can do things from other territories and they can use copyrighted material from territories which don't recognise our copyright, then people are under threat and their creation and their living is under threat. I'm trying to find a way forward that will protect it, but also make sure that we can have a thriving AI industry here domestically in the UK. We have the third largest AI market in the world, the second largest creative industries sector in the world. These are huge assets for our country. I don't want one pitted against the other. I want to find ways where we can keep both and celebrate both and have both here into the future.
Just finally, I wanted to ask you about Becky Johnson's report this morning about misogyny in the army and much worse, in fact. One of the key recommendations from campaigners that has come out of this report, and quite a striking acknowledgement from Johnny Mercer, the former Veterans Minister, is that cases of rape in the army should be dealt with by the civil courts, not the military courts, and that there should be full transparency for all to see. Is this something that the new government is willing to consider, indeed, to legislate for?
Well, it is already the case that crimes committed in the military can be tried in civil courts. Now, that is something which we think is right, but it's right that the authorities choose which courts are appropriate in which circumstances. These are sometimes quite highly, technical cases, and we need to find that the trials are done in the right way. But the key thing is,
when it is rape,
Yes.
should there be full transparency such that it should not be able to be held private in a military court?
When there is any violent crime, that they should be tried in the best circumstances to deliver justice for those people who are victims. And what we're working for flat out with this government is to drive out the circumstances which leads to those sorts of crimes and the misogyny that you're talking about from our armed services in the first place. We accept it is there. We accept there needs to be more work to drive it out, and we are implementing the policies to make sure that that can be the case going forward, because we want to have women having great careers, feeling safe, feeling that they are valued throughout our military.
Peter Cott, thanks for joining us, as always. A pleasure.
Thank you.